Hello everybody and welcome back to Red Eagle Politics. Make sure you like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So today we're doing yet another tier list. I did a tier list probably around 2 years ago or so of the 2024 prospective Republican presidential contenders and candidates, and the landscape has changed quite a bit since then. And there are a lot of people who are rising to the occasion who we may not have initially expected. We have some people who are probably not going to run. Some are included on this list to make it well-rounded. And we're going to dive into this, and we're going to rank these 24, I believe, candidates based on what tier they would go into, either S tier, A tier, B tier, the mid to rhino tier, which again, there's kind of a little bit of a leeway there between, C and D, and E tier, for example. You have the F tier, which is basically as rhino as it gets. And then you have the Z tier, some of which includes rhinos and just other people who have really no business being in this race to begin with. So we're going to dive into this, but first I have to tell you guys about our good friends over at Noble Gold. Noble Gold Investments is pleased to let you know that gold was the best investment class for 2022. Real estate, crypto, stocks, and bonds, gold outperformed them all. So what are you waiting for? Noble Gold Investments has helped thousands of clients buy real physical gold. Open up a gold IRA or silver IRA with Noble Gold Investments this month and receive a free quarter-ounce American Gold Eagle coin with every qualified IRA of $50,000. You can't go wrong with Noble Gold Investments and their thousands of 5-star reviews. So we're going to dive into this. We're going in alphabetical order by last name here. We're putting these candidates on this tier list based off of where they stand on policy, but also viability as well. Technically does play a role for both the nomination and the general election. So up first, we have none other than Texas Governor Greg Abbott, who's kind of weak, but probably won't run. Probably he may run in the future, or I guess you would say he would wheel himself because he can't really walk, let alone run. But it seems like because Trump is in this race already and DeSantis likely will enter, Abbott's going to do the politically smart thing and just sit this one out. But if he did throw his hat in the ring, keep in mind he's listed as a potential candidate on Wikipedia. That's why he's on this list. He probably would rank in the mid tiers there. So up next, we have none other than John Bolton. And I'm going to put this one in the you've got to be kidding me. Dude is a total war hawk, neocon, supported Joe Biden in 2020 over Donald Trump. He is a train wreck. He has really no business running in the first place. He is going in the Z tier. Up next, we have Tucker Carlson, who is the most nationalist and populist host over at Fox News, who would likely have a extensive policy platform that could relate to middle America. He has great optics in terms of his delivery. He does have this tendency to resonate with people, and he would have already a celebrity stature, which would boost his run from the get-go as an outsider, although it's very likely that he doesn't run. But if he did, I think he could be a formidable candidate in the future. But right now, he's got that cushy job at Fox News. There's really no reason for him to throw his hat in the ring, and he could sit there on the sidelines and work in media and push the Republican Party in the direction where it needs to be with his commentary. So up next, we have Liz Cheney. And this one's obviously going in F tier, but it's also so absurd that it's going in Z tier. Yeah, absolutely. Just not a chance whatsoever. And that's pretty much it. She has a, 13% approval rating within the Republican Party. It's absurd that she would consider running, but deeper than that, she's just awful on the issues, every issue, especially after she did the whole, I'm joining the Resist Libs after 1-6, her whole voting record that was supposedly solid, even though voting records can be misleading. It has completely collapsed on itself, and it's awful. She's always been awful. And now everybody knows it, and it's good. She couldn't even win a primary statewide in the state of Wyoming. There's no way she's going to get any more than 1% in Iowa before dropping out if she does throw her hat in the ring. So up next, we have Chris Christie, who I presume is only running for president. Allegedly, he's supposed to throw his hat in the ring very soon so he could go get the free food. And there's really no other explanation. The fact that this guy would want to re-enter politics in and of itself is pretty laughable. So up next, we have Ted Cruz, who has announced his intentions to run for re-election in the Senate. I would expect him to run if Trump did not run, or if Trump somehow steps aside in the next year or so, which I don't really anticipate to happen. I do think Trump is probably in this to win this, even if he does fall short of the nomination. Cruz definitely belongs in the mid to rhino tier. I wouldn't say he's like a full-on rhino, but he is kind of a grifter, and he is somebody who is very unlikable. There's a reason why he almost lost in 2018. He's going in the mid-tier, and he just doesn't really have the personality to resonate with voters, whether if you even want to say he's solid on policy or not. Sometimes he's solid, sometimes he's meh, kind of run-of-the-mill standard, but it is what it is. Up next, we have none other than Governor Ron DeSantis, one of the best governors in the country by many metrics, according to the wide variety of the Republican base, although him and Trump kind of have this, tension that's building up because a lot of donors, mainly in the establishment Republican donor class who back people like Bush and Rubio back in 2016, they want to draft DeSantis. They want DeSantis to run for president, and they're going to be giving him all of his money so they can get rid of Trump. And whatever happens after that, we don't know. DeSantis has been a good governor. That is very true. However, at the national level, it is an entirely different ball game, and his congressional voting record wasn't really anything to write home about. I think that if he does end up winning the nomination, he could be decent. He's not yet proven, but he has a lot of the wrong people supporting him and backing him, which definitely breeds a lot of skepticism about DeSantis 2024, and I'm sure we're going to be talking about it being as objective as possible over the next year and a half or so if he does throw his hat in the ring. So up next, we have none other than Doug Ducey, who again is this governor of Arizona, watches it veer off to the left while he is the governor, didn't really do much on a wide variety of issues, including immigration, was fairly weak when it came to election reform as well. And I don't think that he would really be a very good executive, and I don't believe he would be viable. I also don't believe that he is going to run. He's not going to be as bad as some of the other people that are going to be in F tier. This is for sure. But he is fairly weak, and even when it came to how he handled the COVID response, he gave a lot of power up to a lot of these large cities, which have 40-45% of the city voting Republican, but their mayors are Dems, and they had all these mandates, etc. He's just weak all around. He's not as bad as Cheney or some of the other people we're going to get to, but he's downright awful. So, up next, we have none other than Nikki Haley. And Nikki Haley is an absolute train wreck, and we know that. You look at her, where she stands on immigration, where she stands on foreign policy. She said she wouldn't run. Now she's throwing her hat in the ring. She's going to go out there. She's going to grift. She's going to throw out all of this rhetoric on the table, generic boomercon rhetoric, hoping it sticks. It's not going to. She'd be very lucky if she got double digits in South Carolina before she would decide to drop out. And honestly, the more people in the race, it helps one person. It helps Donald Trump, and apparently they haven't figured that out yet, or they haven't learned from 2016 when they had a clown car of people in the race who were not viable going up against Trump, and it allowed Trump to just clear the field, mog everyone in the debate stage, whatever. And you're kind of seeing a little bit of two of the same thing happening here again ahead of 2024. So up next, we have Josh Hawley. Josh Hawley is arguably the best senator. At least he was the best senator before we saw people like J.D. Vance come to the Senate. But Hawley is somebody who's been a proven product for quite some time, kind of flown under the radar. I've seen him speak in person, and it really felt as if he really has what it takes. And he also has what it takes to expand the coalition. He could do well in the Rust Belt. He could do well in the Sun Belt even, because he has, the good optics. He's from Missouri. He has some appeal to those Southern Republicans to a certain extent. And also, on top of that, he is somebody who is very solid on policy. And I believe that if he was running for president, he would arguably be the most proven product. He's somebody that understands the GOP establishment is broken. He understands that the direction the party is going in is not entirely a solid direction. And I really feel like if he did run, he would be able to go out there and defeat Joe Biden. I think he is VP material, but I don't believe he's going to run. I'm going to put him in S tier. I mean, you can't really find a whole lot wrong with his policy record unless you extensively nitpicked it. And even then, those flaws would apply to literally every single other candidate on this list, probably to a larger degree, besides maybe somebody like Tucker Carlson. But either way, what we do know is that Hawley is going to be a contender in the future, and I look forward to whenever he does run, although hopefully there will be a lot more people just like him in the race, and we'll decide from there. So, up next, we have Larry Hogan, who I think is basically running to be the John Kasich of this primary cycle. He hasn't announced that he's running yet, but it's very likely that he will. A lot of people said that he would have ran for Senate in 2022 if he wasn't planning on running for president. There have been whispers for a while that that's what he would be going for. But again, the guy was a rhino governor of Maryland. I believe he at least had to claim to be pro-choice, among other things. And while you did have people like Mitt Romney, who were, governor of Massachusetts, a deep blue state, become the Republican nominee, Hogan is just too far gone, too removed from where the party stands today. The party definitely has changed under Trump, and Hogan does not resonate with the base whatsoever. There's no way that he would even come close to winning the nomination. He'd probably get support from the Lincoln Project, and that probably would be about it. And up next, another rhino governor, although, again, Hogan was governor of Maryland. This guy was governor of Arkansas. And he was probably one of the most liberal Republican governors in the entire country for his last term. He was even vetoing bills because they were anti-woke or whatever. He couldn't even do the basic Republican governor shtick down in Arkansas, but now he wants to run for president. He's anti-Trump now. And it's basically to sell books, and I think that's what a lot of people on this list are really running for president for, to make a name for themselves, to sell books to resist libs and wine moms, basically, because, they don't like Trump. They must be principled. Yeah, whatever. They have no principles. Their principles are garbage, but that's beside the point. What we do know is that, there's no path for him. There's no path for John Kasich either, who's listed on the potential candidates list. Again, anyone who endorsed Joe Biden for the presidency in 2020, of course, honestly, you might even want to move him to the "you gotta be kidding me" group. But again, he likes the food too, just like Chris Christie. He might not show it as much, but he was out there on the campaign trail until May. I remember Trump would crack the jokes on the campaign trail about John Kasich just running for president for the free food. And I think there may be some truth to that. So up next, we have none other than Georgia Governor Brian Kemp, who, again, I think some people will claim that he's the worst governor in the country or whatever. I don't believe he's that. And because he had a primary challenger, he was forced to sign a lot of decent legislation. But besides that point, he really is nothing super special, and I don't really believe that he would run, especially if you have somebody like DeSantis entering the race, or so long as Trump is in the race, which basically, if Trump and DeSantis both run, which Trump already announced, it's very likely that those two will be the main fight, the main card, and everybody else is basically just there for show, and probably will drop out before then. And that's pretty much what it's going to come down to. Maybe they might, test the electorate. They got to test them by running somebody like Nikki Haley to see if they would prefer her in terms of the base or the establishment wing of the Republican Party over somebody like DeSantis. And when that inevitably is going to fail, they're probably just going to throw all of their support behind DeSantis. But that's beside the point. Up next, we have Kristi Noem, who is also going to go in the mid to rhino tier. I don't believe she is going to run. I think that she'll be a prospective vice presidential pick for either Trump or DeSantis, whichever one does end up winning that nomination there. But either way, she's not really that good. She's vastly overrated. She was hyped up by Fox News in 2020, and I was like, okay, if Fox is hyping her up so much, she's really not all that. And I feel like I'm vindicated on her based off of the fact that she decided to veto a lot of solid legislation because her donors at this health firm were not happy with it, and she only signed them when she had a primary challenger. And also, people will say, oh, she didn't lock down, she's so brave, but she wanted to lock down. Her state legislature opposed that, and then she went out of her way to primary all of the solid people in the state legislature. I don't believe it was very successful, but either way, it would be an awful pick. I would hope that Trump would not consider her for VP, but who really knows? Up next, we have Mike Pence, who again is not viable, and I'm not a fan. I really was never a fan of him to ever be president, even back before the whole 2020 thing happened. I was not really a fan. I was okay with him being Trump's VP initially, but he was always just a run-of-the-mill guy. He was kind of boring. I mean, he was okay on the debate stage in terms of the whole VP debate, but other than that, he was just very mid, a very mid politician, very generic. That's basically what mid means for those who might not get the whole Zoomer terminology. But up next, we have Mike Pompeo, which again, you could argue could go in Z tier. I'll put him in F tier, though. He's just awful. I mean, on foreign policy, he is a neocon. He is indeed a globalist. He is somebody who is lost a lot of weight just so he could run for president and probably get, 2% in Iowa if he even stays in that long. He's not a viable candidate, and he's not solid on the issues. Oh, he might be like generically claiming to be pro-life or pro-gun or whatever. That's basically going to be about it. And you get that from pretty much most people on this list. So there's nothing special about him whatsoever. Run-of-the-mill establishment politician, worked in Trump's administration, kept it as interventionist as he possibly could keep it. And I don't think that's a good thing. Some people are probably going to disagree, but I have my own values, and he doesn't represent them very well. So up next, we have Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio is somebody who actually seems to be either unironically improving or he is managing to become more skilled as a politician. He's definitely blowing the way the wind does, so to speak. And I don't think he is going to run for president, especially with this crowded field with the two big dogs in there with Trump and DeSantis. But either way, I would put him in the mid to rhino tier. Has he gotten better, at least rhetorically, over the past 6-7 years? Absolutely. He stopped shilling for amnesty. He started to become more of a protectionist, whatever. But I wouldn't really trust him to be anything other than senator of Florida. So up next, we have Tim Scott. Tim Scott, he is very pro-BLM. He, in many ways, is culturally liberal. And a lot of people have propped him up for one reason, and I think we all know what that is. And it's basically tokenism, because they're like, oh, we're going to outwoke the left by having Tim Scott go out there and say cotton to Congress 3,000 times in the State of the Union response. He's just fairly weak as a senator, not really that solid on the issues. He definitely belongs in the mid to rhino tier, and he's being propped up by the GOP establishment. I mean, he's a part of that broken South Carolina Republican Party, and he wasn't able to be primaried out or whatever, but he's basically a John Boozman who supports BLM more extensively, and that is not presidential material right there. Up next, we have Montana Secretary of State Corey Stapleton, or former Secretary of State, who is running, the only reason why he's on this list, and he is going to go in the Z tier. I don't really know where he stands on every single issue. I probably would take him over people like Bolton and Cheney, but the fact that he's in the race, well, he has zero chance and is just doing this to be the John Delaney of this election cycle, or just trying to raise his political capital from nothing into just something slightly above nothing. It's laughable, and he's just a sideshow. So, up next, we have Miami Mayor Francis Suarez, who many people are speculating is considering a run, and he's somebody who voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016. He's very liberal on social issues, and he does not really stand a chance whatsoever. I get you need that token mayor in a crowded field. Democrats had, I believe, several in the running back in 2020, but it really didn't amount to anything other than Bloomberg spending hundreds of millions of dollars to win American Samoa when he could have arguably bought the island for less money, and Buttigieg to basically raise his political capital to somebody who won the first 2 states but just got shellacked across the board after that point. Up next, we have Chris Cookie Man Sununu, who has taken a more rhino turn over the past few years or so. And he's even, vetoing legislation that would ban CRT and things like that. The guy is fairly liberal on a lot of issues. I know New Hampshire's not the most Republican state, but I mean, look at how Youngkin is governing in Virginia. He's governing like it's Kansas, and we'll get to him in a second. But either way, Sununu, he's going to go somewhere down here in the F tier. We'll put him right next to Larry Hogan. So here we go. We have 2 candidates remaining. Keep in mind the A tier is empty, and that's going to end right now. And some people are going to disagree with this, and I'm sure they'll express in the comments why. And most of you guys, if you're familiar with my channel, know where I stand on this. And I am somebody who does give Trump a fair deal of criticism, because nobody's above criticism. Nobody is above a litmus test, and they really shouldn't be. But it's very apparent that if you look at his policy that he's put out so far, it's rock solid. And he didn't have that going for him in 2016 or 2020. And if he can just stay on message and sort of learn from the missteps that he took during his presidency, which, again, were going to probably happen in retrospect anyways, because he wasn't in politics. You learn who to trust. You learn who not to trust. It really seems as if he still is the best we got. He is the most proven. He was the greatest president of our lifetimes, hands down. You really can't argue with that. And I know that he's old. I know that he's not the candidate that he was back in 2016. But the chance that he can go out there, stay on message, if he's able to win the primary despite having steep opposition and people propping up somebody like DeSantis, then I do believe that he is a viable challenger for the general. If not, I guess we'll just have to back the nominee. But as of right now, I still believe that this is Trump's race to lose in 2024, and we'll see what happens from there. But up next, we have our last candidate, because we're going by alphabetical order. We have Governor Youngkin here out of the state of Virginia, who I was initially fairly skeptical of. Back when he was running. I still was an enthusiastic supporter of him to win. You get a Republican governor in Virginia, but he was somebody who on the campaign trail went out there and really didn't cave very much, focused on what mattered, didn't stab the base in the back, and he was able to go out there and defeat a career politician who was a powerful player back in the Clinton machine in Terry McAuliffe and a former governor of the state. He went out there and did that, and since taking power, he hasn't had this real ability to do much because he doesn't have the Senate, but he still has pushed the envelope. He's clearing out the bureaucracy there as much as he possibly could. And he's going out there and proposing these, abortion bans that are very ambitious for the state. And he hasn't lost popularity. It proves that he's fairly solid. He's not governing it like he's in a Biden plus 10 state. He's governing like he's in a Trump plus 20 state. And I've heard from a lot of people that he's much more based behind the scenes. And if he doesn't run for president, I do think there is a chance that Trump could pick him as VP. I think there's a chance that DeSantis also could tap him for VP. We'll have to see what happens on that front, but either way, it's very possible he just doesn't run this cycle or doesn't even be VP, serves out his term in the Virginia governor's mansion and maybe runs for, I don't know, Senate in 2026 or president in 2028. Who really knows? But either way, this is the tier list. We have the S tier. A lot of these people, well, both of them actually won't run. We have the A tier. We have the B tier. Could be decent, not fully proven. We have the mid to rhino tier. A lot of these people may or may not run. I think the majority of them in there won't, if not even all of them. We have the F tier, which is basically as rhino as it gets. And then you have the, you gotta be kidding me, what are you doing here tier, the Z tier. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Like this video down below, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Red Eagle, out.